Going live, going live, going live, going live. Well, yesterday I got a comment from Cententari. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Spanking me for my rant 2 days ago about OpenToonz 1.5. Well, fair enough. I accept the spanking. And with that in mind, I thought to myself, well, what if I go ahead and explore how to create a bloom effect first in Krita to sort of get the algorithm mapped out, and then jump over to Tahoma and duplicate it over there. I actually think it's probably going to be pretty simple. If you let me see, I want to check something here. Okay, if you look at maybe some YouTube videos about this new bloom effect in OpenToonz, the bloom is, it's essentially a combination of a glow and a blur and some additive this and that. Let me show you what a bloom actually is. It's essentially a glow where you're ramping up the intensity of a really aggressive Gaussian blur. Okay, and I mean we want to go crazy. Yep. Okay, so there's your. That's essentially what you're after. Now, as you can see, it results in as it blurs out. I'm actually wondering why the let me do this again. I'm curious about one thing. This, oh, I know why. Never mind. I was going to say I wondered why the why we were getting the underlying drawing bleeding through, and it's basically because the alpha channel around here is in fact transparent, so it's just smearing the edges. But anyway, basically that's the effect you're after, with the caveat that you don't have the it's really not in the right blending mode. So let's go to it's probably going to be a mix of either addition, addition, or overlay. Overlay is going to be way more subtle, as you can see. That definitely gives you the kind of effect we're talking about, extremely subtle. If we go to screen mode or additive, one or the other, you're going to get something that looks like what people typically think of when they think of a bloom. So if we solo this layer, if you wanted to really drive the bloom effect home and dial it in, then I expect you would probably simply use some curves to pump up the contrast. Like so that again, because this is additive, darker colors are going to have less of an effect, and lighter colors are going to have a greater effect. That's screen mode. Addition should be very similar, but not quite the same. So there's pretty much what we're talking about. That's pretty much it. Now, if you wanted to, if you say, well, yeah, but I really want that glow, but I don't necessarily want it to wash out my character. There's really a couple ways to deal with that. One would be to just do the same thing I just did, where you just pump down the highs the same way we pump down the lows, and then just play around with the the density of it, like so. And the other thing would be, I'm going to actually undo that so we have a more extreme glow. And the other thing would be just put it underneath, right? So you've got the glow there, and then you could duplicate it, put it up above, and just really ramp it down. So you only get a little bit of an effect on the top and an aggressive effect on the bottom. So there's your bloom. I mean, I venture to say that in OpenToonz 1.5, essentially that's really all they've done is package this sequence of effects. It's really just a blur and add some kind of additive blending mode, and possibly the mixture of a blur that's both underneath and above. But basically that's all a bloom is, and in fact ever has been. It's just really not that spectacular of an effect. If we take this one off and you say you really don't want as much color bleed, then again you could say just hit Control M and just dial down the saturation of it, like so. You know, if you go to the extreme, then it becomes purely grayscale. You know, purely white actually. If you duplicate it, you say I really want it to be intense. Let me see here. Wonder why. I'm gonna kill that. That's interesting. Well, that's definitely a Krita flaw, the way that's cropping. But anyway, you get the idea. So basically, we know what to do. So let's go ahead and kill this. Jump over to Tahoma and see if we can get the get that effect we were so turned on by in OpenToonz 1.5. Which obviously OpenToonz is not Tahoma, so let's just say, let's go to 5, probably 498 actually. Let's go to 498 and see if we can smack a bloom effect on TNR. Okay, so this is just, like I said, you know, we've got this bloom effect in OpenToonz 1.5. If you're a Tahoma user, too bad for you. You don't get to have it. Well, is there a solution to that? And so this would be probably the solution. Let's pop open the schematic, F3, and we'll put this in render mode. And now let's just kind of sort of see if we can duplicate in the schematic what we just did in Krita. The only reason I mapped it out in Krita first is because it's just really quick and easy to mess with layers and blending modes and things like that to sort of figure out what you're doing, and then porting it over here to Tahoma is no big deal. So this is column 2. So we're going to be fiddling with column 2. All right. Okay, just turning that off and on to confirm I've got the right column. So the idea was to first make a duplicate that we pipe through a blur. So let's simply add a blur. Okay, and then we'll pipe her through the blur, and then we will, the idea is that we're going to combine her with herself, and probably in for a bloom, usually you're going to do pretty well with screen or additive mode. So let's just kind of stick with what works. So there's that, and then there's that. This can be deleted, and we may want to put it back in. But okay, so there we've got our glow, if you will, and we're going to make this a generous 80 pixels, so we get quite a loud glow. And then again, the idea would be actually, let me think about this for half a second. And to be clear, I'm not 100% sure that, I was going to say that this is actually additive blending mode. I'm pretty darn sure it is. It certainly looks like it. But kind of interesting that it's allowing for multiple sources. So anyway, what I would say then here is, let's take a look at this alone for a moment. Okay, and I'd say we're going to ramp this up even more. Okay, that's cool. So there's your blur, and then the blur is comped over top of the character, and it's kind of like a bloom, except that the problem is that we really want to have those curves right here. So let's do an image adjustment. Where's the curves? And you could use levels too, I mean, obviously. All right, and so you're smacking it higher in the highs and lower in the lows, so you're pumping the contrast. There you go. There's your essentially there's your bloom effect. so many words. Let me see if we've got. Okay. Okay, so then the way you would get it under control is to say, well, we're going to have this comped over top, and so let's make the intensity of it lower. Let's make the intensity only 40. Okay, but then we're going to recomp it under with higher intensity. Okay, so this. Okay, so now I have to think about this for just a second. That's how intense it's going over. So we're going to actually come out of here. Let's do an over. Layer blending. Over. Okay, and to be clear, what we are going to do is we're going to put this glow on top. We're going to put the actual straight image on the bottom or underneath, and then we're going to put the full on glow again underneath. Okay, so that's pretty much it. By the way, ignore the sort of pre-multiply weirdness you can see on the edge there. That's just a holdover from the fact that this is a cut and pasted imagery from Krita. But anyway, but yeah, that kind of gives you the idea of a blooming glow effect. And of course, you can always take it here and ramp it up even more. So, interesting stuff. All right, so now let's get back to work. New scene. Good morning, all. And Natesh says good night. We're going to discard the changes because we don't really want the bloom in there. And we got to get busy. Okay, so time to get to work. It is animation time. Good morning, Maria, by the way. And Natesh, you said good night. I take it that either means you're leaving or it means more likely that you're somewhere where it is not morning. Okay, so yesterday we did, I guess we actually did 3 shots. These 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so now what actually happens next, I'll switch back to this screen so I can put it full screen. So the next thing that happens, we want to just pause for half a second here and think about it. We got Mel sitting in front of the tent, a little bit gobsmacked, and he says that is one resourceful monkey. So my opinion is that what we should actually do is knock out a close-up of Mel first, and I'm just going to go ahead today. I'm going to take that chance. I'm going to take that risk and just start working directly in Tahoma. Not doing the Krita thing. Not doing the Krita thing. So I may regret that, but that's okay. We're just here to have fun. And so step 1 is to hit the B key. And what I'm going to do is draw an oval. Okay, so the oval is essentially Mel. Okay, so so now if I hit the M key, I can flip this around, and you want to flip, 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 flip. Flip your canvas frequently. You will thank yourself later when you don't have wacky balance problems in your drawing that you just didn't notice because you never flipped your canvas. So don't be a naughty animator. Be a good animator. Be a good animator. Be good by flipping your canvas. Okay, so now I'm going to draw a guideline here across the and now question, do we want to use an anime effect like this? Perhaps that. I'm going to hit the N key, so this is the actual size. I do think perhaps Whoops. Okay, we're not going to be able to do that. I really wish there was a simple lasso, like the freehand path tool, but that's okay. We'll just color it in. Okay, so question. Do we want to actually dive right in by, instead of delineating Mel's eyes properly, have this sort of blank look? The only problem with what I just did is that's not really the effect I was talking about. And probably to pull the effect I'm talking about off, you probably do not want his eyebrows in there. So we're basically going for that like Walmart smiley face, dumbfounded look like that. Okay, so I'm going to leave it like that, and then I'm just going to go here, hit the D key, and we're just going to give ourselves some options. Okay, so option 2 would be a standard rendition of Melchizedek, and so in this case his eyes would look a little nonplussed. And then I'm thinking what would happen is the one eyebrow would kind of do this, boom, like that. E key, erase that, draw that. Okay, so we got a couple options here. Option A would be he's kind of a little dumbfounded like this. And if we're gonna do that, I don't think there's any right answer. I think that I need to really kind of check my anime reference, because there's something about this that's missing, and I'm not sure what it is. I should know this, but I don't. Which is, you know, let me duplicate this one. Okay, that's interesting. I'm going to go here and hit duplicate over here. Okay, so let's pull this in there. And in this case, I'm thinking the third option's the best, to draw them in a standard way. And then animate the eyebrow. And then tilt the head. I think that's going to be the way to go. Hey, Dirt. So that's what we're going to do. Okay, so boop 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 doop. All right, so what we're gonna have to do is ink and paint on one head, and then we're gonna kind of cock the head a little bit, smack up the eyebrow. So he's gonna go, you know, do one of these, and then we will pull out to a wider shot, and then we'll get something more like what we have here in the storyboard, where we get this wide shot. We'll see the indication of the tent in the foreground. And then that's when he'll say his line of dialogue. He's basically talking to himself and says, "That is one resourceful monkey," because of the action at the foot of the tent. He thinks is monkey. He doesn't realize, of course, that it's Tianara exploring ways of escape. So what I'm going to do is, actually, I'm going to do one thing. I said this the other day in regard to cinematography and whatnot, for people that are like entire head on the screen, and then I can. Okay. All right. So with that, we just had a crash, and since we never saved our work, that's the first time that's happened, actually, in quite a long time. But yeah, lo and behold, Tahoma just crashed, and it's the first time in over a month that I've had a crash where I got too confident. I expected the software to not just out of the blue crash when doing nothing unusual at all, like drawing. So consider me utterly and completely hosed, but that's okay. We're just gonna work a little smarter. Maria's out there going, "Well, Dave, I only constantly tell you to save your work, Dave." Yeah, that's true, Maria, you do. Okay, so this is going to be shot number 504. Well, what the heck? I mean, we've got it all figured out, so we know what we're doing now. Output settings, this is going to be plus scenes 5004 render in JPEG. And that's that. We don't need to save it. I mean, we don't need to render it now, but let's go ahead and save all. Okay, so there we go. I got hosed in a big way, and now I have to recreate what I just did as quickly as possible. Well, what did I do? I drew an oval, baby. This time I'll go ahead and draw the oval itsy bitsy-ish so that it's actually kind of sort of the right size from the get-go instead of having to resize it the way I did a minute ago. So, painful experience. You're saying it's painful for you to watch me have a crash, or it's painful to have the anxiety of wondering if I will, or do you mean something, or do you mean it's painful when you have the same thing happen to you and have a crash? Frankly, it's all painful. But again, we're not talking about a particularly complicated shot here, so let's just give an indication of where his nose would be, where his mouth would be, and again, for this shot, Mel is nonplussed. Well, I don't quite like the positioning there on his eyes. And by the way, neither do I like the expression in his eyes. So, oh, painful to have crashes on your own. Of course, it definitely is. Okay, hitting the M key. Flippy, flippy. Okay, close enough for rock and roll, to quote those great modern poets, 38 special. Okay, so I guess I'll get back into the old habit of saving my work. By the way, got the coffee. Hey, Golden Slime. So today's tasty beverage is coffee. Okay, so what we're going to do is just turn that down. And we're going to get ink and paint done. And then what we're going to do, we're going to get the cock of the head, a little bit of the eyebrow thing, and then we're going to do a smash zoom out to a wide shot. So we'll actually just shrink down the head into the other shot, get his body drawn in there, quick background, and then he's got his line of dialogue. So we got to time this would be about feels to me about to be a 5-second shot roughly. Well, let's find out. Okay, we played around with the smoothing yesterday. I was ranting in a good way about how wonderful the smoothing is in Tahoma. And indeed, we have a problem. Indeed, it is quite good. However, that was actually, you know, I gotta say, this is like the hardest thing about Mel. I'm gonna redo this. The hardest thing about drawing this guy is this chin. It really is. To get just the right curvature is tricky. Now that's pretty close. This could be, you know, I don't want his neck there. So I'm going to dial in the ear here just a little bit. Just don't want to get sloppy, you know. Let's look at, yeah, see, this is what I mean. That ear is probably okay, although what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a little adjustment. I'm going to just straighten it up a little bit. But this one really wasn't even close. Distinguishing costume characteristics. I do regret giving him all this curly hair. I tell you the truth, I'm actually considering, this will be our little secret, friends. I'm seriously considering in episode 3, starting the episode out with him like emerging out of the woods or something, having shaved his own head or something. You know, so then of course Luca and TNR would be like, what the heck did you do? And we'll make up some goofy excuse. But the real reason is because Dave doesn't want to always have to draw all this curly hair, which, by the way, I'm not happy with right there. So I think that would be a pretty boss move on my part, would be to just say, you know what, let's just get rid of the hair. It's obnoxious. I think it's better to sketch in raster, not smart raster. Well, yeah, but if I'm just doing a quick and dirty pencil test, I mean, if I was going to use straight raster for the ink and paint, then I certainly would be doing that in Krita to begin with. So, I mean, the whole point of doing it in Tahoma is to go ahead and use a smart raster level. Just saying. Okay, boom. Hit the N key. Okay, oh, this is truly one of those situations where it's really one of those situations where you regret the crash, because I just drew the guy without even thinking about it, and everything felt right, and now everything feels a little bit wrong. Hate when that happens. It's part of life. It happens to everybody, I'm sure, but it's a drag. It's a drag. Just little stuff, like I'm gonna grab this entire area and see if there's anything I can do about. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. What you do is when you use the selection tool, you hit the control key. Okay, so now we gotta clean up. Look at that. Look how awful that is. Ugh. Ugh. Boom. Okay. Make sure that's closed. Clean up that little mess there. But yeah, I guess there's no good. You can rationalize away the cost of, you know, a crash, but let's face it, the reality is it sucks. No one likes to have things crash on them. It's not fun. Okay, I am going to see what's bugging me right now with Mel here is that looks pretty good, but there's something about the hair that's just not quite right for me. Whoa, bunch of chat. King Solomon's Mines, where Deborah Kerr, exasperated with the jungle, is doing chops it off. It's a fun little scene she doesn't know. Huh. Okay. I'm jumping back over here to just kind of look at Mel for a minute. Actually, that's interesting thing about this shot is that really, yeah, I mean, I literally could have just taken this, whoops, not that one, but that drawing out of the other shot and smacked it in there. But anyway, I'm going to go with this. So I'm actually going to go, boop, delete that level, file, save all. Okay, so now let's kind of finish up the rendition of Mel. We're going to have a line down here just because of the costuming situation. And okay, so the expression change, we're gonna have to make a dupe Let's make a dupe. Boom, duplicate. All right. And this one's gonna be, usually one thing I've been doing lately is, if I have to do like a change of expression or something, I just draw over it and then erase the stuff that is no longer needed, as opposed to erasing first. Kind of makes, hello? Makes it easier to do it accurately. Same reason I guess people use onion skins, actually. I don't favor onion skins most of the time. Once in a while. Okay, and I think in this case, another thing that would be cool is let's grab this little border edge and smack it up a bit. Yeepers. Something like that. Okay, so, alright, and then we've got to erase the rogue eyebrow, and then we'll be able to do, let's just go 2 seconds here and see how it feels. So we go, cock the head, boop, yeah, boop, and then cut wide. Okay, so this is going to be, this should be interesting. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this, I'm actually going to duplicate this again, but we're going to do some pretty aggressive editing here. To wit, grab the selection tool. Okay, really? Grab the selection tool and then really shrink this down. Okay, so now what we're going to discover here, I'm sure, is that because it's going to scale the ink lines, we're probably going to have to re-ink him, but that's okay. Okay, so that's the idea. He's going to be sitting there, and he has a line of dialogue. I think what he says is, that is one resourceful monkey. Yep, he says, that is one resourceful monkey. Okay. So, that is one resourceful monkey. How long did that take? It took a second after we stopped, after it looped around. So I would say let's add 1 second. 29 plus 8 is 37, and probably a half a second of buffer zone. So let's call it 42 and save our work. Okay. Looking back here at the storyboard. Okay. I like the body language, so I guess we will just make a little adjustment here and hit the N key, so we're looking at the actual size. And frankly, I'm going to hit the B key and actually put in another sketch layer so I can just kind of block this in. Okay, scoot out just a little bit. Yeah. Yeah, this is actually way too freaking small. Hang on I mean, dyslexia moment. Way too big. See, when I say small, I mean big. And when I say big, I mean small. Everything's the freaking opposite. Drives me up the wall, man. That's what I mean by a dyslexia moment. Okay, so we're going to keep this sketchy. We'll save our work, save early, save often, but this is like way too big, if you can believe that. This is supposed to be more like, yeah, it's actually supposed to be more like that. Alright, so I'm going to tilt his body weight in just a little bit. So what we have is, there's the wrap around his waist, and then his legs are sticking out like that. So there's his knees. Draw an arc so you get the lengths correct, right? He's kind of got this little skirty garment he's wearing. There's his knee. And now let's zoom in and see what we would be doing. So there's basically what he's doing, expression-wise. Okay. Now here, I like what I did here better. It's probably actually a little too much, but He's got a little more hair in this drawing, and it feels more correct. It's probably a little bit too much, but that's okay. That's okay. Alright, so here we go. There's his sleeve. Alright, so let's draw a line across here so we can reference, you know, just kind of look at the old geometry, baby. And now I'm going to draw a little tiny bowling ball here and call that a deltoid. Let's zip out a little bit. And then his basic posture in the storyboard is essentially like this. Like his hands are just like he's nonplussed to the extreme, right? So he's just kind of like, wow, that is one resourceful monkey. Which is, of course, his line of dialogue. So you can see I'm kind of drawing things a bit on the blocky side, the way you see in some art books, you know, actually. The truth be known. Kind of like the way we talked about doing hands, actually, yesterday, or the day before, whenever that was. Okay, got the arm wraps. This hand we're not going to be able to see. Neck's just a little too scrawny there. And now I'm going to start making some adjustments because there's a few things about this that I definitely don't like. First of all, his body is feeling a little bit incorrect. That feels a little better. You know, as I've said other times, Tahoma's doesn't really have something comparable to the liquify tool that we have in Krita, but the ability to hit the control key in selection mode and do what I just did is definitely useful. Okay, per the storyboard, I guess I would make two changes here. Number one, his head seems slightly small to me. Okay, and number two, his whole body is actually still, believe it or not, too large. He's actually, and now it's like, let's get in there with the rule of thirds and see what we're actually dealing with. I mean, per the rule of thirds, he should actually be sitting there, and he should probably be framed in about like that. And that's a better composition. And in fact, it does more closely match what was in the actual storyboard. Okay, so basically you've got these tent, okay, so it's like a tent stake, right? With a line going to it, right? And so we're really looking down here. We're very much looking down from above. And so it's a bit of a strange manipulation of the perspective, or you could say the point of view. Not quite happy with this. I'm going to redo that. I think I'm just going to leave that more flat. And then what I want to do is kind of extend this up taller. We'll make that line like that. Yeah. I mean, that's the tent stake. This is the fabric. So we're going to have to draw a little bit of the background-ish on that. Hey, Ashnan. Cool. Okay, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn the opacity of this drawing down so that we can get the proper ink and paint over here. And as you can see, as noted before, he's too big. But what we'll do is, let's zoom in here. And yeah, I would say per kind of sort of anime convention, I think it'd be better just to re-ink him and then make the inked version more simplified, because obviously the constraints of the actual size format of our frame dictates that we just can't have the level of detail. So that was a convoluted way to say that if I take the large version of his head and shrink it down, it's actually going to look less correct than if I redraw it, but in a more simplified way. Okay. That's my opinion on this particular shot. There are times when I've done the opposite. Headband. Okay, boom. We got this. His garment kind of goes like that. So yeah, today is a bit of an experiment with let's go ahead and just do everything in Tahoma and see how it goes. You know, if I regret it, I regret it. But I think we're probably okay. The main reason I'm doing it is because I have gotten more comfortable with dealing with like the shadows using vector layers with auto-filled shapes, and so just not really saving that much time, you know, really by. I mean, the shadows have been the real deal buster as far as being able to make it, quick to get the imagery that I'm after. Doing shadows with multiple colors in your palette is just obnoxious. It gets unwieldy fast because you wind up. Okay, my finger just hit a key, and I'm thinking it was the W key. And not only that, but that would be an example here in Tahoma of something that does not. Okay, I was going to say doesn't respond to undo because I hit the undo key twice and nothing happened. But then it undid, so. Woohoo! Yay! Good news, everyone! Zuko, you haven't said that in a while. Zuko knows how to say that. He likes to imitate Professor Farnsworth from Futurama. He really does. He's constantly saying, "Wee!" He gets all excited about different things. If you pet him, he's like, "Wee!" Zuko is quite an amazing bird. Tahoma 1.2 is coming. Yeah, Golden Slime. Everybody's been talking about it, man. Everybody's been talking about Tahoma 1.2 is on the way. It's like big news, man. Big news. Okay, N key. Not too bad. Not too bad. And actually, I'm going to consider one thing here about his expression. Thinking out loud here, folks. Thinking out loud. So bear with me since I'm not actually explaining myself. I'm just thinking maybe I'm going to do one of those kind of anime little lines dancing around your head things before he says his line of dialogue. Okay, so this is a little risky. I need to zoom out. Yeah, okay. Actually, I was going to make his hand. I don't think I'm going to orient it in that direction, actually. I think that's a little silly. Let's just take this back out. And let me rethink this just a skosh. I actually think this makes more sense. I'm just gonna leave his hand behind for this shot. Okay, one question that does come to mind as I ponder the many, many, many wonderful things about this cartoon is what the heck is behind him? When he comes down here to that tent, we really don't know. Actually, I don't even think we ever do see. Yeah, we never do see kind of sort of what's behind the guy. So, for that reason, I think that let's jump over here and I'm going to say we're going to have, let's just basically put the fairgrounds, if you will, and then probably an indication of yet another tent over here that I'm guessing would probably be a green tinted tent instead of pink. But yeah, and then over here, gosh, why don't we, I really wasn't planning on doing a full-blown background painting for this, but let's say there's some mountains way far in the background. Over here is where we would find, let me think about this. Everything I'm about to say is wrong. I was going to say the place where they're having the wedding, but actually no, he's behind the tent. The wedding area is way over stage left. So actually what would be here is, I know what would be here is a little bit of an indication of some, almost like a crag, because there's a bit of a ledge that he came down to actually get to the back of the tent. Does this all really need to be there? I'm not sure. I'm beginning to think from a staging standpoint, maybe we'd be better off to actually go ahead and scale him up a bit after all, and leave the background a little more sparse. Just feels like it's a little busy for what we're trying to do here. So with that in mind, let's see what we've got. We've got that. We just need to add some color, little plastic tool to get the turn of the head, and then he's got a line of dialogue. Here, definitely some plastic tool too. He's going to want to have a little bit of a change of orientation. So, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? Let's color him. What we'll do here is let's just get a flesh tone happening. And then let's get an eye color, or an eye, the whites of the eyes. Boom. I can kind of ballpark this because I've done Mel so many times. Okay, a muted green, pretty dark. That's his headband. And frankly, his armbands. Lightish blue is his garment. Darker-ish blue, slightly saturated, is the other part of his garment. And what else do we have? I think that's it. Oh, his hair. Duh. Okay, his hair is in the ballpark of purple-ish. And, you know, being procedural, we can always change these colors after the fact anyway. So with that, I'm going to hit the fill tool and kind of see what happens. Boom, boom, next, boom, 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 next, boom. Okay, that was easy. Easy is good. We like easy. Okay, so let's get these in there while we're thinking about it. Boom, 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 and boom. Okay, flesh tone. No, we don't want flesh tone. What we want to do is take the eye, whites of the eyes. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and delineate the shape like so. Otherwise, we're going to wind up with a leaking problem. And leaking problems, as you guys know, if you've ever done plumbing, is not fun. Fill, 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 fill. Okay, we can always lighten it up, by the way, in case you're starting to panic out there about the fact that the whites of his eyes do seem a bit on the dark side. Yeah, Dave is aware. I love to talk about myself in the third person because it reminds me of Fairy Tale, which I've been watching. I've actually been kind of shocked at how much I've been enjoying Fairy Tale. But, oops, that's not what I intended to do, but that's okay. We can fix that post-haste. But there's a character in Fairy Tale named Juvia, and she always refers to herself in the third person, i.e. she says Juvia this and Juvia that, as opposed to I this and I that. That's just Juvia. That's just Juvia. Got any other Fairy Tale fans out there? I seriously never really thought I would like Fairy Tale. I was really sure I wouldn't, actually. But, to my surprise, what it turned out was that there's a lot of really good principles that come across in that show that I think are kind of good for, you know, the value of teamwork and loyalty, and you know, there's really quite a kind of an astonishing number of good, what I find to be pretty good values that come out of that show. Okay, not too bad. We got to get this wrist wrap. Okay, and we got a little bit of flesh tone here. We don't want to forget. Don't forget. boom, boom. Okay, so we're going to be doing multiple iterations of the plastic tool here. So plastic, and by the way, as far as the background goes, we'll wind up doing the background, and then I'm sure I'm just going to wind up putting a blown up version of the background and maybe even defocus it on the close-ups. So the only other thing we're going to need, we're going to have to do plastic tool, we're going to have to get the shadows in there, and then we're going to have to finish dealing with the background. So, right, so what is the first step? Oh, by the way, one thing I do want to do is make a little adjustment on his hair color. This is where your Tahoma procedural palettes are kind of useful. Yeah, it's just tilted a little bit more towards the purple. Okay. So, step one would be to hit the X key. The X key allows you to create a mesh. Boom. And in this case, it's going to be really simple. What we want to do is give it the ability to turn his head. Tend to like to have a nose on a node on the nose. Okay, and then probably split the difference there, I'm guessing. And then what I'm going to do is put some nodes around here to protect his shoulders so that they don't animate. They don't move when I don't want them to. That's how you control stuff. You just put in extra nodes. It's easy. Okay, so now here we know we're going to have a mesh that doesn't work, so I'm just going to delete that so that this plastic tool is only going to affect up to that frame. And you could put the other iteration of the plastic tool on another level if you wanted to, but you don't have to. Alright, so boom, boom. Okay, we've got global key. Yeah, let's go here, and then here. That's pretty much it, folks. Pretty much it. Okay, and I'm going to hit the X key again. Well, I'm actually going to go create mesh. Oh dear. Sorry. And I'm going to save my work, by the way. Maria's out there going crazy because I haven't saved it in a while. All right, X key again. I'm going to create the mesh. Now it creates a mesh on the current picture. I'm going to apply that, and we're going to just choose a different path. So we'll let Tahoma decide on a whole new name for the file. And then as far as the skeleton goes, what you want to do if you're trying to clamp a bunch of plastic tool activity with different skeletons onto a single column, all you got to do is just hit the plus key here, and it'll actually let you create a whole second skeleton. And it does exactly what you would want, where it intelligently will switch between them here. Okay, so now what we're going to do is build the skeleton same way as usual. Again, we want to have him be able to turn maybe at the neck, but definitely at the waist. And then I'm going to put some extra nodes here to just protect the stuff that I know for sure I don't want to have move. Okay, and Valerie just whipped through the room, and I need to talk to her. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go File, Save All, and guys, I am actually going to go ditch you for just a couple minutes. I mean, we'll say 5, but honestly, it's probably going to be more like 3. So I will even do you this honor. I will take a real big. Okay, let's turn the smoothing off. That's obnoxious. Back in 5. So basically at 11 o'clock, because it's 10:55 here. So I'll be back in just a few minutes. I'm not as sophisticated as Darren T, so I don't have a full screen animation to put on the screen. Although what I could do is go like this and let you guys preview the first few minutes of episode 2, and I'm gonna go ahead and hit the Q key so it loops. So back in 5. Man, wouldn't it be nice if there was a soundtrack? But there's no soundtrack. Not yet. Back to work. Boom. Tahoma, wake up. Wake up, Tahoma. Okay. This doesn't seem to want to let go at the moment. There you are. And my whole, you know what? This is very, very sad. This is one of those regrettable situations you really don't like to have to tell people about. But it turns out that all of the time I spent writing back in 5 was utterly wasted. Utterly wasted. It was a waste of time. I shouldn't have done it. In fact, even worse, I need to jump to the, I need to get my glasses too. Yeah, sorry about that break. I had to kind of let Valerie know about some things that are happening today that she should be aware of. So, scene cast. Yeah, I'm just gonna see how it did. I'm going to remove all unused levels, and indeed it did remove that one, so that was languishing. Let me grab my glasses. Sorry, guys. And by the way, at some point I may ditch you guys again for about 1 minute to go get some water because my coffee is just about Gonzville. Okay, so the obvious question is, why did you do this? Why do the plastic tool here? Well, because I'm just pretty sure that I'm going to want to, okay, I don't want to build the skeleton, I want to animate. Boom. Okay. So he says, and by the way, I'm going to push this forward, do my usual. Okay, no, I can't do that. I'm sorry. My bad. Because we're using a multiplicity of plastic tools in a single level, I do need to make a duplicate. And then all I want to do is just kind of have him straighten back up. And he says, that is one resourceful monkey. And then I think, let me just have him say that. So, that is one resourceful monkey. Boom. Right about there, I'm going to make a duplicate of that key. Okay, let's put it a little more north so that we can then do just a little cock of the head. Okay, that's it. So now, what do we have? Ooh, that was ugly. Okay, we had a glitch. We did have a glitch. We wanted to get from here to here, and it looks to me like this is not a duplicate of that. This, I should say this was not a duplicate of that, and that's not going to work. So let's go Control V, boom. Okay, and we can fudge the timing later. You know, we can fuss around with the timing if we want to, but for now let's just turn that level off, and now this is what we've got. K key to rewind. Yeah, speaking of timing, what I'm going to do is make that a little crisper. Let's drop that down to 2 frames and see how that feels. Yeah. Not bad, not bad. Okay, so what do we want to do? Background or shadows or mouth? I say mouth. Okay, so I'm going to jump down here and I'm going to, yeah, let's just put in another level. Now, what we're going to have to do is, I tell you what, we're going to do it this way. I'm going to go F3, and in my schematic, for the moment, till after the lip sync and everything's done, I'm going to go ahead and unpipe that from the plastic tool. So now our plastic tool's there. We know it's going to do what we want it to do, but we'll get the lip sync in there and then pipe everything back through the plastic tool, including the mouth, so that everything moves together. Makes sense? I hope so. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is hit the B key and actually give some indication of the mouth. Right here. Okay? So then he is going to tip up, and I would say right about here, that. And when I'm doing lip sync, I usually do turn on the onion skins just so I can compare shape number 2 with shape number 1. So fill that, and this is going to be the almost closed mouth, so I'm just going to scratch it in there. Okay, so now what we're going to actually do is go Control C, Control V. As I've said here other times, the pattern is open, more open, open, more open, almost closed. Okay, my suspicion is that on this particular shot, I'm probably going to want to go Control X, duplicate this pattern, Control C, Control V, and then this is going to be the closed mouth again, so I'm just going to drag that in there and turn off my onion skins. And then my suspicion is I'm going to want to extend the shot just a few more frames. Save all. Okay, so let's back the heck up, and of course we've got a little hiccup there, which I assume is, yeah, it's on the mouth layer. So let's just take our eraser, get rid of that, see if there's any other little glitches. Doesn't look like it. Typically the mouth is going to be a little bit transparent to match the ink lines, which right now are too black anyway. So let's go back here, grab the ink lines, and do with them what we normally do, which is push them a little towards the red and a little towards the gray, like so. Okay. Yeah, that's working. Okay, so I say we deal with shadows. So shadows are going to be a vector layer. Okay, that was a mistake. This is what I want. Okay, and now what we're going to do is we're going to hit the B key, and we're just going to have nothing but fun drawing some shadows, which we'll then go in and make semi-transparent. So, and they'll also be clamped to the character, so don't worry about the overlap there. That's no big deal, people. I hear you panicking out there. Don't panic. Do not panic. Trust the master. Trust the master. Probably a little bit there. Okay, so this is going to be like at, and then this is going to be even more simplified. And by the way, be warned, I feel like maybe I'm going to sneeze, and I will try not to sneeze in your ear, folks. Here we definitely want to put some shadowing around the knees. This is all going to be lost in shadow. Little shadow area here. Okay. All right, so drag that down there, and now we're basically ready to do our post-production. Then we need to smack in our background, and we're good to go. So F3, back to our schematic. On the stage schematic side of things, we've got our plastic tool, and we need, our plastic tool level. So we're going to pipe column 1 into it. We're going to pipe column 4 into it. That's our mouth. And we're going to pipe column 5 into it. That's our shadow. Okay. Column 3 is only still in the shot as a reference for the background that we're going to put in there. So you can see that now the shadows and his mouth all move with the plastic tool. Very, very cool. All right, so now let's go back over here to the effects, and what we need to do is we need to take the shadows, and we're going to, there's more than one way to do this. You can use a matte matte in, matte out, whatever. You can use matting to do what I'm about to do, but I like to use the multiply INO plugin because it is right out of the gate is set up to act as a clipping max. So 0.12, that's my typical shadow density, and the background for the shadows will in fact be column 1. The mouth, I'm not going to worry about piping it through the shadows. That's really not that important. So now if we go here, we can see that the shadows have the appropriate density. Let's turn off these guidelines again. And I'm going to hit the B key so we don't have anything else on the screen. And I can hit the K key and actually I'll hit Control R so it does a quick render of it. And that way we can review what we have. And for some reason we don't see his mouth in the render. So why did the mouth disappear? I'm gonna guess it might have something to do with the background, right? Okay, so the background is going to be turned back on, by the way. All right, so let's hit insert here. And now we've got a couple different ways we can approach the background. One would be, this is where doing everything in Tahoma may turn out to be not as big of a win, because typically background painting in Tahoma is not as fun or effective as in Krita. However, we're going to give it a crack. So let's do a raster level. And let's save our work. File, save all. And we're going to put the background here. And then after this is painted, then we'll deal with probably in a different level. We'll take the same drawing and put it behind the close-up and then probably blur it out, so it, for obvious reasons. So let's just do it this way. Let's grab a color that kind of sort of is similar to what we would kind of want for the sky anyway. And just kind of get a shape in there to get us started. And I'm going to hit the F key to fill that in. Okay. So what we don't have is the ability to just draw shapes like you can with the vector tool where they fill in automatically. It'd be nice if we did, but we don't. So that is life in the big city. Why don't we let's just get kind of a nasty brown color, and we've got this big brush. I really want to make this brush big and just block this stuff in. Rough. We'll make it look good later, but first let's just get it blocked in. So this feels like it's a little too close, so I'm going to hit the R key, sample that, and pull that back a little bit. Okay, that's not horrible. Here we said that would be on the greenest side, but well, if we're going to do that, we're going to make it lighter. So let me block this in. Rough. And this is going to be tilted actually towards the pink end of the spectrum. Get that in there. And then the far background here is kind of essentially some hills in the background, which is going to be a real muted. Let's actually grab the sky color and then do a darker but muted version of it, and I'm just going to hit the fill tool and hope we get it kind of close. Okay, and then maybe a little bit of indication of a little something else over there. Not too bad. That gets us kind of sort of in the ballpark a little bit. Alright, checking the messages. I'm getting multiple thumbs up. Hey dude or girl, whichever it might be. It looks like from the pictures probably a dude with a name that I'm guessing would be like an Eastern Bloc kind of name, like a, you know, Ukraine or Russia or something like that. I don't know for sure, but that would be my guess. Okay. All right. So now what do we do? Well, let's sample our basic local color here, and we're going to try to work with a fairly limited range. I do want to get an indication of some outlines in there. So go like this, and maybe kind of like that. And now I think this would be a good time to probably turn that level off so that we're not seeing it and being distracted by the sketch. At this point, I want to be just kind of tuning into how this is going to look. So what I'm going to do is grab that color and then make it just a little darker. Yep, there we go. That's kind of what we're after here. Got to get some indication of these wrinkles. I mean, this is basically just fabric. And likewise, we want a little bit of a highlight end of it as well. So what we can do is, if we get it kind of in the ballpark here, then we can go in with maybe the oil paintbrush, sample this same color, and then use that as a bit of a blending tool, like so. If we want to. I mean, it's our call. Do we want to make it a little more cartoony, or do we want to make it a little more painterly? With backgrounds, I tend to favor, because this is kind of an anime type of aesthetic, this show, I tend to favor a more painterly look on the backgrounds. But this whole fabric thing is, you know, a bit unique insofar as background painting goes. Now here, what I'm going to do is, again, a more muted tone, and I'm just going to kind of, let's get some of this. I'm going to hit the F key and, come on, fill that in. Thank you. I want this to be a little bit lost in shadow. So I know this looks really crazy at the moment, but I suspect it's going to make a little more sense as we go along here. We're going to come in with the grass and wind up chiseling back into that some more. Chiseling into the foreground stuff. Now, to a degree, I'm also going to allow myself to just jump around as I notice things. Okay. Boom. Okay, get a real light color. I'm kind of winging it a little bit here on the green tint. I'm gonna say that being the roof, one would expect it to have a little bit lighter value. It's catching a little bit of sun up yonder. Okay. And then, likewise, we also want to give it a little bit of a shadow area. So here, I'm going to just say that's going to bleed down like so. Kind of cast that in shadow. And then that's going to actually be like a lip over the top there. Okay, grass. Okay, let's go simple-ish. Simple-ish on the grass. Okay, it's a little saturated for my taste. But let's go like that. Okay, we're going to have to take that. I say we get this column and delete it completely. because it's just a distraction at this point. All right. So all I'm doing is there's a little bit of a value change. Also, the idea here, now that I'm thinking about it, would be that because the sun is coming down this way, so there would be sort of a sense of some shadow and highlight going on. But again, let's look at this at actual size. We just don't want to get too sloppy. And it's a dance, you know, a dance between too coarse and sloppy versus too simple and cartoony versus too painterly. There's no rule, you know, there's no right answer. It's just you kind of have to make a judgment call. How much detail to get into. So I'm going to grab this, and right now what I'm definitely feeling pretty strongly is that a little bit darker value here. So what we're seeing here is a bit of a cast shadow from the sunlight. I'm going to make the brush bigger so I can really start smacking it in there a little bit more aggressively. And then we will be putting a cast shadow on the ground as well for Mel. Squint, flip. Yeah, flip. That is probably not too bad. And then even darker under the guy and kind of behind him. Like I said, you know, you have to, it is a judgment call how much detail you want to get into. Obviously the focus of the shot is him, not the ground, right? So now here I'm going to do the same thing basically here. I'm going to take the darker value and say, well, we know that the upper, I don't even know what you call it, the way the canvas comes over the top on the tent is going to create a shadow area. I'm going ahead and muting that a little bit as far as the saturation level. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Let's get our brush back down to size. Boom, boom, boom. And hit the N key. Okay, this is interesting. We don't want to give this too much attention because we don't. In other words, I don't know how to put this. We don't want it to look too good because it's gonna draw attention to itself, which we really don't want. So I'm just gonna say we're gonna have one other value. It's a two-tone texture. And basically, it's not clear from the audience's perspective. What the heck is that behind him? I mean, if you do the math and figure it out, you would conclude that indeed this is the ledge that he probably climbed down from to get down to where he is, but that's not really explicitly clear, and I don't think it's actually that important in this case. Now I'm breaking my own rule that I just said, and I'm going to actually add a little bit stronger highlight value there. So just, you know, noise. Checking the messages real quick. Looks like nothing new. Hey, Darren T, looks like you're here. So nice. Okay. So we're getting there. So what I'm seeing missing here is basically I want to see some cartoon outlines on the tent stuff. I don't think it looks quite right without that in there. So I'm allowing a little bit of that texture to kind of bleed around. Okay. And let's chisel this a little bit. So you got these mountains that since I'm using my oil paint brush, I'm going to allow those to be a little bit blurred. I'm basically doing the blur the hard way by just blending the paint. Okay, and same thing here. And then what I'm going to do is sample that color, go actually from there to white, and just a little bit of the cloud action going on here. Okay, so outlines. Let's grab this brush. We're at 0, and what I really want to do is kind of make it somewhat consistent-ish with my character outlines. That looks okay. This is probably problematic down here. Boom. Okay, that's all right. I think I want a little bit of a sharper indication there. Okay, boom. Just a hint. Alright, so then we're going to have, oops, that's a little too saturated there, folks. Just stuff. You know, one thing I've done on these other tents earlier is to put in some seams. So say you'd put in a seam here, let's say. Okay, if there was going to be a seam, what you'd do is you'd have a highlight and a shadow side, probably. So we'll go a little lighter here and just put that nice little line in there that gives it just an indication of something. I actually think I took it too far. Okay, and another thing is compositionally, I'm actually wanting to have a couple of those lines across there because there was the indication of the tent stakes in an earlier shot. So, okay, let me look up here and see if there's anything. Doesn't look like there's nothing too pressing on the chat. So, back to the brush, R key to sample that. And again, isn't this exciting that we're doing the whole shot completely today in Tahoma? Okay. So now what I'm going to do is just allow a little bit of stuff to sort of just jump out and give this a little bit of life. Don't want to get too contrasty with it. In the far foreground, we could probably, as I often do, put some indicators like that, just because why the heck not? So yeah, not too bad. Okay, so if we're gonna go with this, let's smack this down to here. And frankly, the shot is almost done. What I'm gonna do is insert another level, and up here I'm gonna take this drawing, put it here. I just don't want to mess with having to deal with the a bunch of extra keyframes, so I'm just going to put it in another level so I can scale it up, and that's that. So this is gonna, and plus I can also process it separately. So let's crop this to the camera appropriately, and then get this little bit down here where we would want it to be. And frankly, that's probably okay. And then this is, we'll find out here shortly. Okay, that's a little strong. It's actually not horrible, but something like that. Not too shabby. Okay, so we've got this, and then we got this. The lip sync's in there. Pretty sure I set the output settings. This is shot number 504. Save and render. Okay, so we'll render that, cut it into the show, and see what we've got. So transition over to the other screen and pop this open a bit. Okay, so here's the shot we're working on. We can delete that from the storyboard. And I'm hitting the Q key to take this out of loop mode. And what we're going to do is go to Project Media, and we're going to look for shot number 504. Boom. Render. Indeed, 48 frames at 8 frames a second. 504, there it is. Pop that in. Turn off the resampling. And kind of sort of see what we've got. Let's just go back to maybe what we did yesterday. Now, Tianara fiddling around there. She's peeking out. And then Mel. That is one resourceful monkey. That's it. That's the shot. Not too bad, actually. I'm pretty happy with how that came out. Now, the only thing that is kind of glaringly absent in this shot that I tend to like in Krita is really the gradients that make it all look just a little more interesting. So I think I'm going to actually come back over here and I'm going to add that. I'm going to do it the same way I do it in Krita, just to make it real simple. So let's do it this way. If we hit tab, so I'm going to hit, I guess I need to go to this level. Hit the N key so I'm seeing it at actual size, and then I'm going to hit the, what would it be, the tilde key? No, the tilde key is to solo. What? Did I actually, I think I boondoggled some of my my hotkeys when I set up the ability to solo a level here in Tahoma. There's something strange going on though, because, oh, I know why. It's because of what I just did. I'll bet you if I hit Control tilde, yep. Okay, sorry. So the other day I changed the hotkey tilde to solo a level. Okay, so if I'm on this level, I can hit the tilde and it solos it for me, and then I hit Control tilde to turn the soloing off. The problem is that I think in doing that, I destroyed the view maximize panel and full screen mode. So let's maximize the panel. That's actual size, and I want to be in render mode. Okay, and then I'm going to hit the B key so that now we actually have got the full frame the way it would show on TV or device or whatever. So to get it back over to Krita, I can just go Alt Print Screen, and so it's definitely a kludge. But what we can do is I'm going to do a custom document of 1280 by 720 as usual. Okay, and then I'm going to hit Control V, and it should paste the whole thing in there, as you can see, just perfectly. So why did I do that? Well, only so that I could do the following. I'm just going to add another layer, and I'm going to put this layer in overlay mode, and then I'm just going to do what I normally do, which is hit the old airbrush. Hello, airbrush? There you are. And just kind of smack a little character onto my shot. Like that. Just make that baby pop a little bit. And in this case, I'm going to allow a little bit more on the bottom and side than I normally would, because I want it to affect his skin a little bit. Okay, and now what we're going to do is, it's kind of like doing EQ in music. What you want to do is make fast changes so your eye doesn't acclimate to it. So that seems like too much. That seems like too little. Probably that's about right. About halfway. Okay, and now I'm going to select that layer, Control A, Control C, jump over to Tahoma. Let's jump out of full screen mode. go back to here and just hit Control V. So now that's going to paste the gradient in from Krita, and I'm going to save all. That way Tahoma will make a magic backup of this level. And then we're going to do the same thing in Tahoma Manage by taking column 7, and we're going to overlay blend it, and it's going to be the foreground, but the scene is going to be the background. Hello? This should not be connected. Okay. And there's our background. And then we're going to pipe it through here. And then just like in Krita, we're going to set it to 0.5, halfway. Okay? That's all there is to it. And all that did was it just gave us that nice overlay, little bit of character in our shot. If you take this out, you can see it's not a huge change, but it definitely adds a little bit. And Shift Control R. So we've basically taken everything we normally do in Krita and Tahoma together, and we did it all in Tahoma. If we jump back to the well, we don't even need to jump back to the show. Let's just put it on the full screen preview. That is one resourceful monkey. Okay, so the only thing that remains, I would say, is there is some slop in the background painting. There's definitely some slop in the background painting. Here's what we're going to do about that. Okay, just because I think it'll be fun and interesting to do it this way. What I'm going to do is, here in Tahoma, since I saved everything, and I just saved it again, so Maria, I know you're watching me. I know you're watching me. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to go with our image viewer here on the other screen. We're going to look at the extras folder. So the extras folder is a folder that is really managed by Tahoma. And what we will discover is that the background painting that we just painted has now magically got a copy of it here in our extras folder. So it's a little bit of a drag, the idea that you have to like really maybe potentially fish through a lot of images, but looks like that's it right there. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that image, drag it into Krita, make some adjustments, resave it, and then when we reopen the Tahoma project, those changes will magically be integrated into our scene. So we open up Krita, we can get rid of this, we don't need that anymore, and we're just going to grab this. So this is literally the background painting that Tahoma is referencing. Okay? And we can see all kinds of things that we could improve. So why not do so, right? So I'm going to hit the B key. We don't want the airbrush. Is this the right paintbrush? This is not the right paintbrush. I need to change my faves. Okay. So now we're going to just start fixing this baby up a bit. Okay? Because let's face it, folks, the painting tools in Krita are considerably more sophisticated than in Tahoma. Okay, grabbing that color. Yeah, unfortunately, I do need to. I need to reboot the computer. Actually, I think the problem. I should say I was complaining yesterday about Krita dragging. Krita is still dragging. I have not rebooted my machine since then. I don't believe Krita is the problem though. I think the problem is the tablet screen driver on my digital XP Pen Digital Artist 15.6, which I love. Kind of bogs down, so I'm pretty sure it's the tablet driver that's causing the issue. All right, let's go here to our foliage brush. The time-tested, is that it? Yep, that's it. The time-tested foliage brush. which just gives us a little bit of nice foliage noise with relatively little effort. Come on, baby. There we go. All right, up here, let's go back to my fave oil paint brush. Shrink that down, because what I'm seeing as far as the tablet goes is there's a little bit of a lag that, like, I don't think you guys can see it. You'd have to notice the difference between the mouse. I guess you can see it. See the difference between what the mouse is doing and what the brush is doing? That is not normal. Usually that's what that's actually the way Wacom tablets look, like a Cintiq, all the time, as far as I've ever been able to tell. The XP Pen tablet does not normally do that. It normally is much more performant. It keeps right up. Okay, so what I'm going to do is actually go to my cloud brush. There it is. Yep, we're going to grab this brush, grab that white, and just kind of make these clouds not look quite so stupid. Boom, 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 boom. Yep, that looks fine. We're going to blend those here in half a second. Da-da-da-da. Okay. Just crank that down a little bit. And okay. This probably is okay. So I'm going to go back to my pencil. Boom. Let's just go to black and turn the opacity down a little bit and see if we can maybe dial some of these lines in just a little bit. This is pretty awful. I think I would like to take my foliage brush and just cheat right here. Boom. Yeah, that's better. Okay, this is not making much sense. I'm going to go ahead and leave the foliage brush on there because I just want to get this edge better. I'm going to have to go in and fix the line. But no big deal. This looks definitely kind of stupid. Boo-doo-doop, doo-doop-doop. Let's zoom way in. I mean, obviously there's no detail there. So the question really becomes, would you notice it or not? And the answer is probably not, but geez, we're here. Why don't we just kind of see what we can do with that? It's supposed to look like a hammer or a spike down into the ground. So let's just do that. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, if you really want to make this pop, what you could do is just allow it to have a skosh of a highlight. Just a bit. Hit the N key. Yeah, that's not too horrible. Let's grab that color and repaint over this. Probably should turn our opacity back up. And now I'm just, because I'm at actual size, I'm kind of allowing myself to just kind of feel what I want to add to sort of tweak this out and polish it up. Not too shabby. Feeling like this needs a little bit of shadow action. And as long as we're gonna do the highlight thing, yeah, fine, let's do it. In fact, I'm gonna actually add a couple little indicators over here, just a little bit of noise. Just a little bit. Starting to go into my Bob Ross mode here, I guess. Okay, so now I think we're probably okay. And as you can see, the updated painting is in place, so we should be able to just hit Control Shift R, jump over to Vegas. Hello, Vegas. And we will discover that our background painting has been appropriately updated and we're in pretty good shape. So that looks pretty consistent with what we've gotten from other shots of Mel at other times in the show. There is one thing I would ponder tweaking. Let's come back here. What would I ponder tweaking? I would ponder tweaking his knee. Let me see here. I'm going to turn this off in the live preview because there's no reason for it to be in there. It's still factored into the render. Same thing is actually true of the shadows. Okay, so what I want to do is go here, take the X key, and just see what I have to work with here. Okay. Alright, so did I or did I not create a global key on every one of these? The answer is I don't know. In other words, did we set keyframes for just the bones that moved? Global key is turned on, so I'm guessing that these little nodes right here probably have keys set, which means if I make an adjustment here, I'm going to have to make the same adjustment here and here, or redo these keys. So let's just find out. What I'm going to do is turn off keep distance, because rather than redraw him, what I'm wanting to do is extend his leg out just a little bit. That's pretty much what I was wanting to do. Oh, but you see it just snuck back to where it was. So that's not going to work. It's not that you couldn't make it work, but it would probably be better to address the issue at hand at the point of the drawing. The original Ghostbusters, that's hilarious. I was never a huge fan myself. Actually, I never really got too much. Wasn't Aykroyd in that? I never got too much into Aykroyd. Although I must say, I was pretty impressed when I heard Aykroyd talking to Joe Rogan. You know, when he was on Rogan's podcast, I mean, Aykroyd is one really, really smart guy, really well read, able to converse quite fluidly on a wide number of topics. I mean, he's definitely a pretty smart dude. Okay, so now the problem we have here is we've got to regenerate the mesh. I know, it's sad, but it is what it is. Because the mesh effectively cuts off his leg, so there we fixed it. So now, the only thing that's a little problematic is, you see that little movement there in these bones? That's not cool. That's not cool at all. Because I hit undo, but there's still this is something I've seen in Tahoma before, and frankly, I don't know for sure, but I think it's a bug. I've seen this happen before, rarely, but it happens, where you have, I've seen it happen where you've got a keyframe that you set and then you make a copy of it, and yet there's a little bit of movement drift from one key to the other. So that's a bit of a problem here. Let's go to build skeleton mode. I'm going to cheat. What I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I can overcome this in a bit of a kludgy way. I'm going to get rid of these 3 bones and then first see if that damages my animation. If it doesn't, then we'll stop there. And it doesn't, so we'll stop there. I was going to say, if it did damage the animation, then what I do is go ahead and put the bones back in which case they would now exist with no animation keys set on them, and then we'd again have it fixed that way. So hope that made sense. So smoking from the main characters, yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, who are you gonna call? Well, there's the funny thing about here's the funny thing about Ghostbusters. Let me think about this. When Ray Parker Jr. wrote the Ghostbusters theme, he pretty blatantly pilfered the riff from I Want a New Drug by Huey Lewis and the News. It's basically the same song. I can't remember what the irony of that was. It was something about like Parker suing somebody else for stealing one of his songs when he stole their song too. You know, it's one of those kind of deals. I don't remember what the other song was or what the other connection was, but yeah, if you listen to Who You Gonna Call Ghostbusters and then listen to I Want a New Drug, One That Don't Make Me Sick, blah 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 by Huey Lewis and the News, you will discover it's basically the same song. Whether they actually ultimately had some litigation on that one, I'm not sure. I think there might have been, which is most unfortunate, but anyway, okay, back here. Aykroyd's in it. I like him. I think he has a nice range of acting talent. Well, like I said, Aykroyd is... I didn't really realize too much. I've never been a big fan, so I never paid too much attention. But once I saw him on Rogan, I'm like, wow, you know, this is really an interesting guy. Really smart guy. Okay, I think we're done with that shot. We're done, guys. The question is, are we going to continue? Well, we're at only 6 seconds. I really want to be at more like 15. So, we got a couple choices here. One thing we could do, if we come back here, if we go to this shot, this is going to be another quick one. She's got to jerk her head up and look around. And then Mel is like, Prince? What? So that's going to be pretty quick. This one's going to be not as quick, but not too bad. We're going to have to draw a couple new drawings. This is a completely new shot. So I think we're just going to move forward with it. What time is it? 11:53. We've been streaming for 2 hours. Okay, let's see what we can do in this final hour. I am going to try... I'm going to come back here. Okay, so we had this shot way in the distant past, but it doesn't have the most spectacular background painting ever. This one's closer. But I would say what I need, I don't really have, unfortunately. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to actually go back to my standard workflow. So let me jump back here to Tahoma, and what we're going to do is we're going to do a new scene. We'll go ahead and save all now that we've got that background painting touched up. Okay, and we're going to immediately save this as 505 and set up the rendering situation. So this is 505. Our output settings are going to be plus scenes 505 render, and then that's 505 JPEGs. Okay, file, save all. I think for my purposes, I think I'm going to jump out of full screen mode. I kind of like having those borders, frankly. Okay, so now what we're going to do is kill this, and we're going to take the existing frame in the video edit, and we're going to cut it to the clipboard and then paste it in here to Krita. It's at half resolution, but we don't care. So I'm going to hit the A key so I can scale this up. Control Shift, scale that up to there. And we're going to go ahead and chop in our assets here in Krita the way we often do. And so therefore this will be saved as -505 ping. Okay, and then just because I want to do the due diligence, well actually I don't need to because there's already 2 layers. So Krita is going to, I was going to say I need to also save it as a Krita file, but Krita is going to do that for us. because obviously a ping cannot have multiple layers. So the only way Krita can cope with the multiple layers is to go ahead and also save the ping as a CRA file, K-R-A. Okay, so what we're going to do is take inventory here for half a second. First thing would be to consider the prints. The prints is this is actually kind of an interesting silhouette because frankly it seems wrong to me. I don't know that we would see his mouth. So what I'm going to do, or his mouth, I say mouth when I mean ear. I do that all the time. All right, let's just go back here. Okay, yeah, see, here's Vespar coming into the tent, and as you can see, ears do not factor in here anywhere. So this is wrong. Okay, so let's go to Tahoma, and what we're going to do is create a smart raster level, and we're going to just block in the hind end of Vespar. It's just a silhouette that comes into the shot. So I'm drawing it here, even though it's actually going to step into the scene, so that it's something I've mentioned a couple times in the last couple days, is that a lot of times it helps to work backwards, because if we move this off screen, everything works perfectly and we can always reverse the animation. Whereas if we drew him half on, half off, then when we move him into the shot, obviously there's pieces of the picture that's missing that we then have to fill back in, which is kind of stupid. So, alright, so we don't need that silhouette here in the sketch. So GE, meaning the freehand path tool, in E for erase mode. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to draw the soldier. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put in a new layer, and my presumption is, whoops, hit the 5 key, is that I should be able to just smack this guy in pretty quick and easy. Let me turn this down. Yep, okay, so that probably wants to be about there. And I'm going to cheat. I'm going to go ahead and turn on symmetry mode, because it looks like we're looking straight at this guy. So where is my pencil? Come on, pencil. Boom. And we're going to go with the color that is kind of our normal outline color. Save all. Save, 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 as Maria would no doubt be reminding me. And I'm actually going to turn on the smoothing as well. Okay, yeah, so we've got the same situation here where, believe me guys, I am very keenly aware that these guys' costumes are eerily reminiscent of the Ku Klux Klan, and I kind of wish they weren't. I mean, I do and I don't. There's no intentional similarity is what I'm trying to say. That's just when I originally conceived of these guys' military attire, I was just kind of seeing something that in hindsight kind of looks creepily like KKK attire. Okay, so we're gonna go like this, and then these guys are typically, we can put a little bit of accoutrements here. Let's turn that back off now, like that. Okay, and I think I'm also going to turn off the smoothing now. Boom, 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 boom. Hands. We've been talking a little bit about drawing hands, haven't we? N key. Not too bad, not too bad. Let's turn that back on. Okay, question. What would he... This is not right. This is not right. I'm going to undo that. This guy would definitely have a kind of a belt thing going on. And turn that back off. And he's got an arm behind his back, and then obviously, quite absurdly, his hip area is not even close to being wide enough. What the heck, Dave? Really, dude? Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and use Liquify to touch that up a bit. Boom. Something like that. Something like that. Okay, now we're going to zip in, hit the B key, fix this up, fix that up, and then hit GE so we can just quickly lasso erase whatever we need to, like so. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump way ahead here. See, there's this whole sequence later in the show. Here we go. Where we got these soldiers. And I really want to kind of parallel the what I'm seeing there. Okay, so in this case, maybe there would be, we don't want to be in erase mode, so there would be kind of a thingy-dingy there. And I'm going to actually draw that like that right on the symmetry line so that we get kind of some natural noise in it. Okay, wrinkles here. We probably should put some indication of his. Okay, so let's take this guy back out, turn this back up. And this says background, but actually this is going to be the background. Okay, G key. Yep. Okay. I can tell this is in curve mode. We don't want that. We want raw mode. Okay. Tail on the 10. Okay, that I don't like. Boy, goes to show just the tiniest value change sticks out like a sore thumb. There we go. That's a little better. I want to make this a little bit looser. Okay, now let's go back to our brush. So B key, and then just gonna kind of go in here and smack in some details. A little bit more of a hand-drawn kind of thing. You know, with cartoon outlines, in other words. Okay, so here, I think I want to draw this line all the way down here. And actually, there we go. That's good. All right, B key. That goes up there. Okay, so this region, I would say, needs to be yet a little darker. Actually, really get some shadows in there. And up here, just a little bit of texture. That doesn't look too bad, actually. Let me see if there's anything going on in the chat. Nope. In fact, I've been abandoned by at least one or two of my otherwise loyal Watchers. Okay, so let's solo this, and I think what we're going to do is we're going to really do a big cheat here. I'm going to duplicate this layer, grab the copy that's behind, shrink it down, and again, as I said, Krita's performance is atrocious. Smack this over here, unsolo the layer. Yes, that looks really good actually. I want that to be there. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is hit Control M. I know this is hard to see. Let me zoom in. Okay, the tent that was on the other side here, as I had kind of mentioned quite a while ago, was tinted green. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use my curves to do a hue rotation, and that worked perfectly. That's exactly what I wanted, just like that. Okay, cool. So now what I'm going to do is take the G key, and I'm going to put it in behind mode, Shift Alt Q. Cool. Glad to hear it, Maria. Okay, so there's that other piece of that tent. And now what we can do, since we're in behind mode, we can just start smacking in some indications of some ground and some sky. That actually feels about right to me. Let's unsolo the layer, turn this guy back on, save our work. Okay, we're going to be adding a little bit more detail to the okay, that can be gotten rid of, and this can be baked down, I believe. Yes, this can be baked down to this, so Control E. And once again, as I said, save our work. Okay, so this soldier is going to direct Vespar into the tent. So let's take this soldier, since we're just cutting and pasting into Tahoma, let's solo him and get his colors dialed in. Okay, I'm going to cheat once again by cutting and pasting these other soldiers from the video edit. And now let's hit the A key. Obviously the lighting situation's a little different here, but we'll turn off the background. And this way we can just kind of slam it in there. B key, we'll sample that. And then if we're still in behind mode, which we are, should be able to start just blocking in some of the color situation. This guy's going to have a bit of a he's an older gentleman, I would say. Oops, that's not what I actually wanted to do. Alright, so I'm going to grab that color, and let's do a fill. See how far that gets us. Oop, we got a leak. Okay. Sorry. Looks like this might be the culprit. Might be the culprit. Okay, and while we're doing it, let's go ahead and cover that and cover that. Then hopefully, yes, that allowed us to do what we needed to do. This guy has a little bit less of a, what would you call it, a vesture, I guess, or something of that nature. And by the way, I want to actually change the tonality of that up a bit. Yeah, just give him a little bit of variety. Okay, so now we're going to come across to the dirty, sandy, leathery side of the tracks and smack in that and that. That's a little too saturated, I think, and a little too bright. Yeah, that's better. Okay, grab that, little darker version for the wraps. There's another wrap, flesh tone, boom, and this is going to be that color again. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and spruce him up with some shadows, right? Okay, so how's he lit? Well, essentially the sun's coming down pretty harshly, and I think he's essentially backlit. So let's put him in a group. Do is just give this guy an overall shadow situation like so. Okay, and then we're going to alpha lock it to the character, and then this is going to be not too harsh, just a little bit like that. Okay, now let's add another layer, alpha lock that as well, and then this is going to be our second level of shadows. I'm going to go ahead and let this guy have kind of ornery eyes, so to speak. Okay, and then again we just dial it back. Yep, that looks pretty good. And so now what we want to do is just get those subtle shadows that make the character pop so very economically. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, boom, boom. Probably some indication of some wrinklage there, I would say. Little wrinklage action there. That second to last one I did not like. And I would also say maybe this isn't necessarily accurate physics, but okay. And then the one thing that is also missing, kind of glaringly here, is if we solo this layer, we've got some stuff that's actually not covered. So what I'm going to do is hit the G key. We're still in behind mode, so that way I can just lasso this, and anything that really wasn't filled in before is going to get filled in with that. It's kind of a neutral bluish color, but as you can see, once we turn the shadows back on, it got rid of those flaws that were kind of sticking out there like a sore thumb. So now what we can do is hit Control A and select the group. So Control C to copy the whole group with the shadow layers and everything, and we come over to Tahoma and hit Control V, and it should paste in the soldier with all of his layers intact. Okay, and then at that point, one question becomes, are we going to use the plastic tool to move him a little bit? And I would say probably so. Let's do it this way. Step one, let's figure out about 60 frames. Okay, so I'm going to hit the A key, move him off screen, then we're going to jump this forward 4 frames, and I don't know, I'm going to give him about 5 frames to sort of get in here. So, alright, so now our soldier's here. Again, 60 frames. Okay, so a couple steps. First thing, let's go ahead and just plasticize this guy. Let's hit the X key, create a mesh, and rock and roll. And now what we can do is hit the A key and get that in position, like so. So we're animating not the soldier, we're animating the plastic tool that's controlling the soldier. Okay, then we're going to go back up yonder and again hit the X key and create a skeleton. Okay, so boom, 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 boom. Way more detail than we need, frankly. All we really need to do here is, I'm going to give a little bit of a joint there, but essentially we're going to keep that still. We're going to add a couple extra nodes along here to protect his hips so they're not moving inadvertently. And okay, that's the animate. So I'm going to go here and add a global frame, and I'm just going to move him a little tiny bit. Okay, so now stop. I want to turn keep distance on. Okay, we're going to put that there, and then this really should only take about 2 frames, so we're just going to that's it. It's very simple. Okay, so now what we're going to do is let's smack the lip sync on top of this guy, and then all we got to do is touch up the background painting, and the shot's done. We've not abandoned you, Mr. Weiss. We're enjoying your Bob Ross time. Thank you. Thank you. I greatly appreciate that. Okay, so what does he say? I think he says right this way. Yeah, right this way, my prince, he says. So, well, I mean, to be accurate, Darren, there are only 3 concurrent viewers. So, clearly someone's abandoned me. But that's okay. That's okay. I'm not taking it personally. I just, I got work to do, so I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. All right, so what I want to do is, why don't we let's have nothing but fun, and let's do the mouth with a vector layer, just because, gosh, what an adventure to do so. All right, so we're going to open his mouth. We're going to open his mouth a little more. I'm actually going to say almost closed mouth. I'm going to move this one up north. And Control C, Control V, right this way, my prince. So I'm going to say another Control C. Well, let's just look at this way, my prince. It's actually about right. So that was easy. So then we're going to just turn that down a little bit. So the way I did it, it basically makes it look like the mouth that was underlying sort of provides a shadow where the mustache would be, so it kind of all works, actually. I'm going to go ahead and give that a little bit of the old red tint, though. So something like that looks pretty good. All right, rewind. Right this way, my prince. Right this way, my prince. There's a phoneme missing. Yeah, guys, I know. That's what you were thinking. All right, so let's go Control C, Control V. Yeah, that looks better. Okay, so then what we're going to do is paste in the background image and then save. Or, render. Pop it into the show. So with that, let's let's not kill, but let's erase or turn off the soldiers. And turn on the background. Okay, so now the background painting, tell you what we can do just to give ourselves some latitude is jump over to Tahoma and paste this in. Boop. Okay, and then what we'll do is we'll just paste over it after we fix it up a bit. Okay, so there's the painting. I am feeling like that soldier looks a little awkward. Strike that. At first I thought he did, but really I would only say that, let's hit the Animate tool. Let's see where these guys... Yeah, I want to move him over even a little bit more. Let's look at our rule of thirds. I mean, that's not really too bad. It's not the greatest composition ever, but there we go. So obviously his mouth needs to be parented to the plastic tool. Level or else simply offset. Probably in this case the simple solution is just to offset it. Just go like that. Yeah, let's do it that way. Okay, so let's save our work. So then the question becomes, what exactly do we need to do with the Tahoma 1.2? Well, it's not that I don't care about software. I mean, I depend on software. Dude, dude, come on. I'm the software man. But you are correct that in light of the my desire to stay firmly focused on making progress on the show as opposed to experimenting with all the latest greatest releases of software, I definitely have been favoring a less fully engaged approach recently, at least as far as software updates go. Okay, that's going to be questionable, but let's hit the end key. It's not perfect. Let's do it again. Using the Bezier tool for those who are keeping score. Okay, that didn't work. Hello? Hello? That's kind of interesting. Right about there. Okay, that's better. Okay, so I'm just using the Bezier tool so I get some nice precision on these outlines. And you'll notice that I took my brush and I reduced its size by 1 pixel, because the Bezier tool tends to give you a little bit just a little bit thicker line than you'd get with the brush. And that with the brush, the reason being that when you're using the brush, you're generally applying pressure, whereas the Bezier tool is just it's a uniform it's a uniform width to your line, maximum pressure for all intents and purposes. So when you use the Bezier tool, you do tend to get a line that's a little thicker than what you'd probably usually get just using the brush. So, but it's definitely a handy tool that I've been lately using more than I used to, just cause I like it. Boom. Well, that's not going to work. Boom. There we go. Okay, I'm not going to deal with the bottom there of that tent because, excuse me, because I think I want to, I need to spruce a few things up. Okay, so spruce number 1 is I'm actually going to just go ahead and put a couple lines in here. I'm not going to worry about getting this one. I'm not going to put the tent stakes in there. But, okay, B key. This is all just kind of judgment, really. Judgment on, do I want to put, you know, a seam in there? And if I do want to put a seam in there, you know, how bold do I want to make it? But, I mean, gosh, you get a lot of mileage out of this kind of stuff. Just the idea of having a little bit of a highlighted line like that. And then if we go here, we can kind of, again, I mean, this is kludgy. Any real human being that is sewing together the canvas to make a tent probably is not going to have their thread, you know, 6 inches apart. That would be a pretty weak seam. But for illustrative purposes, I think we're probably allowed to take a little bit of liberty with the realism on the old tent seams, right? And I'm going to actually put in another one just because I think it's cool. But yeah, we're kind of back to the back to the tablet driver issue, in that it feels like I have the it literally feels like I have the smoothing turned on when I don't, because of the lag in the brush, which is kind of obnoxious. But let's go crank that back up to 4 pixels again. And now what I'm going to do is allow myself to just put in some sketchy noise. Just doing it that way. Just to give it a cartoony feeling. Okay, and a little bit of a lip around this 10 entrance, I would say. Like so, something like that. Okay, so I'm going to go Control A, Control C, and then we're going to jump back to Tahoma, go to our background painting, and then what I'm going to do is just hit the S key, the selection tool, so that I can then hit Select All and then hit Control V and just paint or paste in the updated version of the background painting. Okay, so there's really only one thing missing. Let's save all, by the way. The only thing missing, I would say, this juncture, is the gradient that we did before. Frankly, the quickest and easiest way to deal with that would be to just draw it from scratch. Just draw it from scratch. Just do it the old simple way. Over here in Krita, just hit the B key, grab the big ol' airbrush, and yep, just kinda give the life to the situation vis-a-vis a gradient. Now, one thing I do want to amend on this particular one, though, is probably we should not get too aggressive on the top there, because obviously the sun does happen to be shining. Alright, Control C. I'm just going to paste this over into Tahoma, and we're going to smack this on top of our scene. And then I would say, after we've got this shot done, I'd say I'm probably done for this session. How long did that take? This shot, wow, I'm a little freaked by that. This shot has only taken about a half an hour. That's crazy. Is that right? Column 6 is going to be overlaid. So what we're going to do is we're going to add an effect, layer blending, INO, overlay. We're going to run column 6 into there. We're going to run everything else into the background of the overlay, and then smack that there, and then set the overlay at probably 0.5. Seems to be a fairly favorable number. And as you can see, it's a pretty number, 505. Okay, so one thing I want you guys to notice. You'll notice that for whatever reason, I assume this is my fault because when I typed it in, these are all caps. Okay? In every single case where I've put in a path like that that was lowercase, Tahoma has rendered everything where it should be rendered. Now I want to find out, if I go ahead and render this, is it actually going to create a new folder called Scenes, one level up, because it's getting confused by the fact that this is uppercase. If that's true, it means that Tahoma, even on Windows, is essentially using Linux file system conventions under the hood, and it's seeing the path as being case sensitive. I literally have no idea what's about to happen. It looks to me like we're probably good. Let's find out. This is shot number 505. We'll just try cutting it into the show and see what happens if everything is where it belongs. Okay, so I'm going to go to Scene, and is there a 505 folder? There isn't. Look at that. Sure enough, it did exactly what I thought. So I think what's going to happen is I'm going to go to... Yep, look at that. Look at what it did. It created a new folder called Scenes. Now this is... It's really quite interesting. Let me jump down to this screen to be really clear here about what's going on. So the reason it can get away with it, and it's probably going to give me some grief in regard to the trying to delete this folder, is the fact that the plus symbol was appended to the name of the folder. So Scenes and Scenes are two different folders, because this is plus Scenes and this is just Scenes. So that's just an important thing to be aware of. If you're going to manually put in the render settings in Tahoma, you need to make sure that you're case sensitively correct, and that because basically what's happening here is that Tahoma recognizes plus scenes as being a folder that's associated with the Tahoma project. So it's supposed to be scenes 505 render. Okay? The fact that I'm using forward slashes doesn't matter. You'll notice when I tab off it, it'll reverse them to the Windows convention. So now it's probably going to render it to the right location. Yep, see what it did? It put it in scenes, in the actual scenes folder. So it didn't append a plus to anything. So just something to be aware of there, folks. So if we come back here, what we'll see now is that the 505 folder will exist. I can pretty much guarantee you. Where the heck is it? 505. There it is. Render. Yeah, see, that time everything worked. So we'll see if I get grief trying to delete that extra folder that just got created, but not a big deal. Alright, so we drag this in. We change its properties to be disabling resampling. And now, having done that, we can delete this. And let's check our work. How are we doing on our time? 13 seconds. So we're kind of close to our 15-second goal. That is one resourceful monkey. Right this way, my prince. Okay. Well, we didn't get as much done as we thought because actually, once he says his line, we need to cut this off. Boom. So that really needs to be about there. So that is most unfortunate, but it is what it is. So we're humming along. We're humming along. Okay, then it cuts to her, who's of course startled by the voices she hears outside, and that's that. Okay, I'm gonna quit. It's been 2 hours and 37 seconds. I'm ready for a break, and so thanks for tuning in. I'm guessing I'm gonna be doing a little bit more offline today, but I think for now I want to pause and take a break. Check my email, yada yada yada. So you guys are wonderful. It's been a lot of fun, and thanks for tuning in. Sorry about all the dropouts. It looks like we've got almost a 30-second delay on the stream, which is really quite ridiculous, but it is what it is. So I'm gonna hang up now, and as you